December 7th, 1941, the day in history after which the world map was about to change forever. An impending catastrophe was set to strike the US Navy base, and no one had any clue about it. Aboard a battleship, an African-American cook named Doris Miller served breakfast to the Navy officers as the sun rose, and then got to work collecting their laundry. At exactly 7:57 a.m., Doris heard a siren. It was a siren no sailor ever wants to hear during their service. He rushed outside and was shocked to see the sky filled with Japanese bomber aircraft. Within moments, the naval base was engulfed in chaos as Japanese aircraft systematically began destroying American ships. This attack was on the US Pearl Harbor base. And today, we'll uncover why Japan dared to launch such a massive attack on a country like the US, why a cook like Doris Miller was awarded the highest honor, and why America eventually used nuclear weapons on Japan. Welcome to Tales of the Past, where we bring you the utmost informative stories in an entertaining way. The story begins in 1941, when the US had to go through lengths to save China. Yes, you heard it right. World War II had been raging for 3 years. On one side were Germany and Italy, while on the other side were Britain, the Netherlands, and France. The US was not involved in this war at all. After the losses suffered in World War I, the US had chosen to remain neutral and stay out of the conflicts raging in Europe and Asia. However, there was one country constantly testing America's patience: Japan. Japan, lacking natural resources, was rapidly occupying neighboring countries to meet its demands. It had already captured large parts of China, Korea, and Taiwan, and had its eyes set on the Philippines, Malaysia, and Indonesia. However, these regions were colonies of powerful nations. Malaysia belonged to the British, Indonesia to the Dutch, and the Philippines was under America. Japan's aggressive expansions were fueled by its alliance with Hitler, an arch-enemy of both Britain and the US. To counter Japan's actions, in July 1941, America imposed an oil embargo on Japan, cutting off 80% of its oil imports. The US demanded that Japan withdraw from China if it wanted the oil supply restored. For Japan, this was a critical decision. Leaving China would appear as though they had surrendered to the US, but without oil, Japan's military power would weaken. Japan chose not to withdraw from China. Instead, it secretly planned to capture Indonesia for its oil resources, but to do so, it first needed control of the Philippines. Japan knew that attacking the Philippines would provoke retaliation from the nearby American naval base at Pearl Harbor. So it devised a bold plan to eliminate this threat. The Japanese military decided to launch a surprise attack on Pearl Harbor, aiming to destroy the entire base, paving the way for an unopposed takeover of the Philippines. Japan began preparing its fleet, which included 2 battleships, 39 submarines, 30 destroyers, and a staggering 414 bomber aircraft. Carried on 6 aircraft carriers headed for Pearl Harbor. On the other side, the US forces at Pearl Harbor included 8 battleships, 59 anti-aircraft ships, 4 submarines, and 390 aircraft. Enough to counter Japan's attack if only they had been forewarned. However, Japan ensured complete secrecy, avoiding all wireless communications. Their fleet traveled 8,000 kilometers, and when they were just 370 kilometers ashore from Pearl Harbor, the aircraft took off to launch their attack at 7:57 am. On December 7th, 1941, 350 Japanese aircraft attacked Pearl Harbor in 2 waves. The first wave bombarded the base for 45 minutes, leaving Americans in a state of shock and devastation. Just as it seemed the assault was over, a second wave arrived 10 minutes later to destroy whatever remained. The attack lasted 1 hour and 15 minutes, during which Japan had the upper hand. The US lost 20 vessels, 8 battleships, and over 300 planes, while the sky was blackened with smoke and the ground engulfed in flames. Amid this chaos was Doris Miller, the cook aboard a battleship. When a siren alerted him to the attack, he rushed out to find a Japanese torpedo striking his ship. Despite being untrained for combat, Doris moved injured officers to safety and then manned an anti-aircraft machine gun, shooting down 6 Japanese aircraft, single-handedly. Of the 29 Japanese planes lost in the attack, 6 were downed by Doris, who later became the first African-American to receive the Ha Navy Cross, the US Navy's highest honor after the Medal of Honor. Though Japan's aircraft eventually retreated, the attack had drawn the US into World War II. The next day, the US declared war on Japan. Over the next 3 months, the US worked to restore its naval base. Some sunken ships were in shallow waters and could be repaired. By April 1942, the US launched its first attack on Japan, bombing Tokyo. The war between Japan and the US continued for 4 years, with America gaining the upper hand. Despite heavy losses, Japan refused to surrender. Finally, in August 1945, the US decided to play its last card. On August 6, 1945, at 8 o'clock morning, a Boeing B-29 was seen in the skies of Japan. This aircraft dropped a 4,400-kilogram atomic bomb, nicknamed Little Boy, on the city of Hiroshima. Exactly after 40 seconds, an explosion occurred that generated a fireball that raised ground temperatures to 5,000 degrees Celsius. This was history's first nuclear attack that obliterated 80% of Hiroshima. Before the Japanese leaders could come back to their senses, 3 days later, on August 9, 1945, a second bomb, Fat Man, was dropped on Nagasaki, erasing the city. These were the only 2 nuclear bombs ever used in warfare, killing an estimated 260,000 people. A week later, Japan surrendered, and World War II came to an end. We hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, share, and comment your thoughts, and we'll see you in another exciting story.